Good evening and welcome to Football Fever. We're live as ever tonight on live Twitter and YouTube. So please like and share if you're watching the show tonight. If you want to come on at any point, drop us a line. You're more than welcome. So going to jump straight in tonight. Hi, Martin, Lee, George. So we've got a Spurs heavy theme on the questions tonight because we've got two Spurs fans in Martin and Lee. But George is a Newcastle fan, so he's really pleased to come on tonight after a late equaliser against Spurs. Puts Newcastle a point closer to safety, so probably relieved with that late Villa fight back at Fulham as well, George. So let's jump straight in with our first question. So starting with yourself, Martin. So if Spurs win the League Cup this season, does Jose Mourinho deserve another season brought in to win a trophy?
That's what he's brought in to do, wasn't it? So yeah, probably. But I think it'll still define on him quite heavy how he responds with our remaining matches. I mean, but on paper, we should have pumped Newcastle today, but we didn't. And you just think, how? The what I saw on Twitter after one of his news reports was someone asked him, said, "What you used to be a specialist at holding on to leads and running out the tough games," and said, "What's changed?" And his response was, "Same coach, different players." Well, you absolute cowards! Really, that's how you're playing that. That's what you're gonna say. So you need to manage them. Then that's your job, to manage these players. You can't sit there and keep blaming the players. All right, okay. I think Lee, you'll probably back me up on this. Our defence was awful, absolutely shocking. Sanchez was he was about as useful as a plant pot. It was no defensive area of him. He gave away the first goal with his shoddy passing. And then he bashed into Roden for the second goal because he's a muppet. And so I don't get why he's playing. I know there was issues with Alderweireld and Aurier with coming back late training and not having the COVID clearance yet. I get that. But I suppose when you're stuck with Dyer or Sanchez, it's a bit of a tough call to make. But what can you say? Again, another Spursy result.
So Martin, he talks about different players, and it's funny because the question about him leaking goals, and when you look at the defence that Pochettino built for Spurs, and you just run across that back four where you had Vertonghen, Alderweireld playing every week because they were telepathic with each other. And then you had the likes of Danny Rose, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker. You had some top players there, didn't you? And probably one of the most respected and hardest to break down defences in Europe because they took you to Champions League final. So it's interesting that Josie says different players because he's got rid of some of those players, hasn't he? And then the players he's put in their place are the ones that are conceding goals.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Joe Roden. He's only just come in. He's a talent. I think he will go far if he gets the game time. Tanganga is being played out of position. He's on the right for some reason because we've got no bloody right backs. Well, no, that's a lie. Actually, we do have right backs, but they're just awful. And then he's playing Reguilon on the left, which of course he's going to do. But Jan Vertonghen, we were gutted to lose because he left of his own accord. Contract ran out. He wanted to move on and go play in Portugal. But Danny Rose, he's just left out. He didn't even give him a number. They didn't even register him this season. And I can't even think who else we've got off the top of my head. And then obviously there's issues with clearances from Alderweireld. But he played the same mistake. I think he's changing the team too much. Like you said, Alderweireld and Vertonghen were telepathic. They played country. They played club. They knew what each other was thinking. They knew when mistakes were being made and when to cover them. And we just don't have that anymore, which is letting us down.
So that's where you are. you've got Carabao Cup final coming up. Jose's the king of the one-off. So despite all of that, he brings home the trophy. The fans are delirious for a week or two because you brought home the trophy. Is it enough? Is that enough? So say you do that, but just purely theoretically, you drop out the top four because you have a few more performances like today, but you've got some silverware to put in the cabinet. Is that enough for a team of Spurs stature?
Anything other than Europe. I can't remember if the League Cup entitles you to a Europa place. I think it does.
Yeah, it does.
So if we were to win the League Cup and then go back into the Europa, yes, I would say it's enough, because then we're back in Europe next year with another shot. We've got a trophy under our belt. The issue will come around the team rebuild. I don't think there's a single person that would disagree that Tottenham need to completely reevaluate their players outside of Mr. Kane and Mr. Son. But there's no money. I've said this before in previous weeks. There's no money floating around to go out and spend £200 million on a whole new team. It's not going to work. So I think the only option, yes, if he does manage to win that trophy, which, I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing really crap, up until the cup final, and then he's going to say, right, go. He's like, unleash the beast, just to real throw this false sense of, they're not very good, and then all of a sudden we'll have a blinder on the day. Because that does happen. But is it enough? I think it will be for this year, but he won't get away with it again. He'll have next season, and then they'll expect more. They'll expect Champions League. They'll expect Europa semi-finals. They'll expect another trophy again. So time will tell.
So just before I move on to Lee, how long would you give it at the start of next season? So, you get to this season. So you scrape a Europa League place because you've won the League Cup. You don't finish the league that strongly. How many games into next season would you give Jose to prove that he can start strongly?
Well, as you probably know from my previous appearances, I try to keep a manager rather than sack him. So I would say till the end of next season. But there's no doubt
the issue
that when he took over from Pochettino, there was a bit of an improvement. The beginning of this season, there was a lot of improvement, and that's starting to tail off now. And you can see that position-wise. I mean, 2-2 with Newcastle today is not great, but then Newcastle are starting to fight for their life. And Spurs have never historically been good in those kind of games. So defensively, I don't know with Jose. I think he fell out of love with football a long time ago. He's very sort of. He strikes me like, from a personality point of view, he's very up and down, and I think Spurs get fed up with that. I think they got fed up with it at Man United, and I think they're starting to get a bit fed up with it at Tottenham. And there's constant, picking one or two players to pick on. I don't think that's a smart idea. I think they've got a chance in the final that's coming up, because Pep will probably be thinking, I don't know what Jose's going to do here, and nobody does. The players or even Jose. Is he going to try and go for it, or will he try and just sit back? Unlikely that he's going to go for it. I personally think 9 times out of 10, Man City win it, but Tottenham have got a puncher's chance, because obviously they've got Son and Kane up front. Kane could score a hat trick, and that's the cup. I'd like to give him a bit longer. I mean, the thing is, just this last time, he's on a huge payoff at the moment, isn't he? If you
every job he goes into, he always gets a good deal out of it going in, and then if they want to sack him, he's like, fine, sack me. You're still going to pay my wages for the next 2 years.
I mean, how many more years how long is his contract?
I think he's got 2 years after this season, wasn't it 3 years?
Right. Okay.
Probably.
So
maybe it's one more.
That does play into it. I again, you sack him, who do you bring in? I mean, actually, in retrospect, Ancelotti would have been a perfect, because when he went to Everton, I thought that was a totally bizarre bit of recruitment. But actually, what a fantastic, that's proved to be an excellent piece of business. Could you have imagined Ancelotti at Tottenham? I think that would have been
absolutely
something special. Nobody saw that. I think at the moment, stick with him. Increasingly, I don't see it lasting more than a year or two more. Unless he really pulls it out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's never an expectation with Jose he's going to be there for the next 10 years. You're going to get 2 or 3 years out of him. His job in return is to provide silverware. That was what the fans said when he came in. It's what he promised when he came in. And I guess does it matter what the cup is? It's silverware, isn't it? The point is Spurs have waited a long time for that, and they won a trophy. And if it delivers a trophy, then perhaps you worry about next season. Just get on with it. George. So, on a similar vein, so sorry to throw in random left fielders, but I didn't know you were coming on the show till quite late. So if Newcastle stay up with 2 games to spare, what are you going to do with Bruce at the end of the season? So you're sorry to put it this way, you're Mike Ashley. Do you get rid of Bruce, or do you say, I'm not giving you much money, we've had loads of injury issues, here's another season?
If I'm Mike Ashley, and God forbid I ever am, I would say that Ashley would probably keep hold of Bruce. But he's already said, at our worst point this season, he's willing to stick by him. I think purely because he's a cheap option.
Yeah.
If anything, this is a time in football where football clubs are probably most deprived. So Ashley would keep hold of Bruce, I think. But if I was owner of Newcastle United, I would sack Bruce tomorrow. But I don't have that kind of power. No one has that kind of power except Mike Ashley, and Mike Ashley's going to keep hold of Bruce until it's untenable.
Okay, so you're probably going to have the next season. Good chance you'll stay up, isn't there? And
debatable.
You don't think you're going to stay up? Well,
I don't think Newcastle's going to stay up. I've thought this for a little while now, and I've been thinking on it. I've been looking at Fulham's fixtures compared to Newcastle's fixtures. Fulham today, they were decent against Aston Villa until they capitulated. Newcastle, until today's game, didn't look like they had that kind of staying power. But Newcastle's fixtures are way, way harder. We've got Leicester, Arsenal, Manchester City. And then we've got Fulham last day of the season. That'll be a crunch point if Newcastle aren't already relegated at that point. But our fixture list is crucial to us staying up, and it is a dreadful list at the minute. And I can't see Newcastle pulling it. I didn't think Newcastle were going to get a point today, which proved to be a very, very big surprise for me. I didn't realise that Spurs were that bad.
Thank you.
It's the idea though that Newcastle are going to go from this and they're going to get 1 point against Leicester and they're going to get a point against Man City. It's ludicrous to think that Newcastle are going to really, really, really struggle in the next few games, and if they can't get any wins, We've had 2 wins in 18 games, and now 19 games. So that sums it up really. We're not going to beat Man City. Absolutely no way. So how are we going to?
So George, there's always a couple of teams in that bottom group that around this time hit what you'd call like Champions League, Great Escape type form. Now we know Big Sam's kind of got form on this. You know, you've seen him at Newcastle doing that. Seen him do it at Everton. He's done it at several clubs, and he Bolton and so on. And so they'll have a bit of a momentum after their victory against Chelsea at Chelsea yesterday. And you can see them picking up points now. And whereas it seemed they were a lost cause, a couple of wins, they're right in the mix, aren't they? Do you think there's any other team other than West Brom that have got the capability at this stage to kind of finish with 6 wins out of the last 7-8 games?
I think Fulham probably do. I mean, I know they kind of lost everything today. They were Aston Villa. They're a very, very, very good team, and I think Fulham were optimistic in thinking that they could go to Villa Park and snatch 3 points. It's Newcastle have tried that a few times. It doesn't work. Villa are a very, very decent team, but Fulham are good. We've seen that for quite a few games now. Fulham, playing really well. Whether or not they get the 3 points or not, it doesn't matter. They're playing really, really well, and they're playing as a team. Scott Parker has got them organised, and he's got them playing well. West Brom,
George,
as well. West Brom made Chelsea look like a bunch of school kids today. Not today, yesterday. But that West Brom team, every single goal they scored was top class, and I don't see Newcastle doing that at all.
Well, my prayers are with you at this time.
Yeah.
I'd say for Fulham, you said it doesn't really matter if you get the 3 points or not, but I'd say that's kind of vital that they do start doing that now. They've drawn too many games this season. They'd be safe already if they'd won games that they should have drawn. And I would say they're a bit shaky at the back still. So they're not good under pressure. And I think the goal today, the first goal, the breakthrough goal for Villa, that the Tyrone Mings ball that was cut back for what's he called, Trezeguet. The Fulham defence was just all over the shop, and that was the point that they were defending a 1-goal lead, and they should be throwing bodies at the ball, and they all stood there and watched it, and I just thought, whoa, you know what? This is, for me, yes, Villa are a good team, but they've not been scoring goals since Grealish got injured, and they haven't scored more than 1 goal in a game until they played Fulham since January, and I thought it was a real opportunity for Fulham to clinch their way back. And I agree, they play great football. It looks very pretty, but it's almost like they're a Leeds without a Rafinha. They haven't got a striker that's banging the goals in for them, and it's failing to score goals that send you down.
Well, my only qualm with that is the fact that Alexander Mitrovic, Newcastle United, he's an absolute don, but obviously he went to Fulham, and for Serbia in the international World Cup qualifiers, has been absolutely smashing them in. So I don't know if he's finding form. If he's starting to find form, then that is a real bad moment, especially when Callum Wilson's injured. Because if Fulham start scoring, that's going to be a scary prospect. It doesn't matter how many they let in the back. If they score more than the other team, then they're going to start creeping up the table.
Yeah, well, I think Mitrovic is one of those players. He reminds me of Yarmolenko at West Ham. It will go away to international games against other, mid-ranking European teams and look like Pele, and then come back and not deliver in the Premier League because the standards higher in the Premier League than the international game they've just played. So I think you see that quite a lot. And Mitrovic, put him in the Championship, he'll bang in 25 goals. Put him in the Premier League, he'll bang in 6 or 7 all season. So I personally wouldn't read that much into it.
He's like he's the Serbian equivalent of Dwight Gale. It's exactly
It's
the
another-
same. Dwight Gale goes down to the Championship, and he'll get you 30 goals a season in the Championship, but as soon as you put him in the Premier League, he's absolutely toothless.
Yeah, fair one. All right, well, I'm not going to I'm not going to sing for the next question, but I'm going to quote Cher. So, Lee, if you could turn back time, see what I did there. Would you take Gareth Bale on loan again for this season, and why?
I don't know if you remember, they lost the first game to Everton, didn't they? Not playing very well, and although we didn't realise that the Ancelotti effect was going to be as good as it was, it definitely seemed to give the team and everybody around a bit of a bounce. And they even when he wasn't playing, they seemed to. It seemed to create some momentum. I think so. I mean, it's a shame that the crowds haven't been in to see him because he has been one of the top players in the world. Coming back to the Premier League, he's done some good stuff. It's taken him a long time to get up to speed, but you take a punt on something like that you've only had to pay his wages. It hasn't been fantastic, but it's not been awful either. So I haven't really answered your question at all there. But no, I would have just done what's happened. I mean, you look at an opportunity like that. What do you do? I mean, everybody would have said if Tottenham had said no. So yeah, I think they probably did the right thing there. I don't think he's one of Tottenham's major problems. I think they've got other.
I mean, we were having a bit of a laugh earlier, Martin and I, because he came on as sub just as Lamela had won Spurs' free kick right on the edge of the box. There's 3 Spurs players up. I think Lamela had decided he was taking the kick. Bale trots on a sub and just walks into the middle of them, picks the ball up, spins it in his hand, puts it down. I'm taking the free kick, lads. And at that point, you've got to hit the target. I mean, you've got to at least hit the target because you've taken someone else's free kick off them as a sub. You haven't had time to find your range. It's the first time you're going to kick the ball, do something with it. And it was like row H or something, wasn't it? It went right off into the stands.
I was absolutely howling when that. The full thing was, yeah.
And you're never going to judge a guy's season on one move, on one incident in one game. But as a neutral, it did make me chuckle. But it also made me think, who do you think he is to go on and do that? But he certainly added, for me, he's added enough quality this season to justify his loan signing. Once he's found his form, he's been very good. Martin, what's your view
on the Bale thing?
Yeah. So would you, if you turn back time, would you take him on loan still?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Reasons being, the marketing value of it would be immense. From shirt sales, and well, I was going to say ticket sales, but that's not a thing. There'll be a revenue aside from it, even if his wages probably don't quite match that. But the fan bases around the world will be looking into it. So, yeah, I mean, there's an essence there. I think he has had some good games from us, and he has saved us in a few games. And he's also not been a part of a lot of games. You get people who are a bit here and there especially after his comments and the Wales interview. But that's his parent company, his parent club he's talking about.
Martin, do you think that was taken out of context a bit?
Massively taken out of context. Because he he can't sit there on, in front of the media and say, "Oh no, I want to stay at Spurs." It's just not. It's not the right way to go about it. It's all he's going to do is piss off his parent club, who are then going to make the move difficult, and he won't get in the World Cup squad for Wales next year.
Yeah.
Because he'll go back to Real and he'll sit on the bench again.
And
that will hurt. That will hurt him more than anything else.
Can I just interject for a second, because I've just seen something. You might want to turn your attention to the football media, because Man United are currently losing to Brighton.
Yeah.
That's compounded my misery for the evening. Brighton moving further away. Fantastic.
Yeah, no,
I've
got it up on the phone. So if I look like I'm not looking directly at the screen, it's not my squint. It's
if I could just add to the whole Bale thing as well, is that how long has he been playing in Spain? It's more than 5 years. I would argue that if for a player to be out of the Premier League for more than 5 years, to then come back into the Premier League and be expected to perform to the highest level again, it's like getting a new signing. It's like signing someone from Spain who's never played in the Premier League before. They're going to have that time to adjust just as much. But I would say that Gareth Bale hasn't had the game time necessary to readjust to Premier League life. He's not running past Getafe defenders or anything like that. He's going up against the might of West Brom, and as we know, that's a formidable defence. It's just like I just don't think that the idea that Gareth Bale swanning back from years and years and years of bench life at Real Madrid and then fitting straight back into the Premier League and scoring your 30 goals a season is a particularly good view. I think he needs time to adjust, but also I think it was a bit of a mistake signing him in the first place, because he's more of a PR move than he was actually a proper player.
That's why I asked the question, George, because so for me, wages are always exaggerated, but let's presume Bale's on $600,000 a week, so it's probably something like that at Real Madrid. Spurs have got to pay a proportion of that, probably up to half of it. So let's presume it's £250,000 a week we've got to play. So Bale comes back, he's not fit on anything apart from a decent golf swing. And so reasonably you're like 3 or 4 months for him to get to Premier League standards. In the meantime, he's getting paid more than anyone else in the club to sit on the bench and slowly get fit in the gym, and then come and win 4 or 5 games on a salary that could have been used to either sign some exciting young players. I'm not saying Spurs don't do that. They did sign Rodon, who's a long-term acquisition for them. But maybe some young attacking talent, looking at someone from a good player from the Championship or something like that. And it's a short-term fix, isn't it? Or perhaps it's not. Maybe it's just opportunism with a bit of sentimentality of a Spurs legend, an opportunity to come back and have him play for you for a few months.
I honestly
there was always sentimentality. There was always sentimentality because that's where he made his name. I mean, yeah, he was never going to come back and kickstart. Of course he wasn't. You've got to earn your place, so you can't just walk in and go straight into the squad. But you're still talking about the bloke that's won 3 or 4 Champions Leagues, God knows how many La Ligas. He's won some serious trophies and played to a very good standard of football. Obviously, his last couple of years at Real weren't great, and he's had those difficulties. But I don't think no one at the time was saying it was bad business. So there may have been a few speculations around people going, "Oh no, can't do this." Twats like old mate who used to own Crystal Palace. What's his name? Simon Jordan. Yeah, he was swinging on TalkSport the other day about how I said the Gareth deal was bad. I do hate him, but at the same time, I kind of like listening to him.
He's such a shit stirrer. The amount of stuff he says about Newcastle, honestly,
it's all deliberate, isn't it?
But it was it was going to be a great. The whole idea was Son, Kane, and Bale, and yeah, on paper it should have been incredible, but it hasn't quite worked out that way. Fitness and injuries have hampered him for the first 6 months, but you can't deny he's still a good player. I think the issue is that the Premier League has evolved faster than any other league.
All I can say is this is very reminiscent, for me at least, of when Newcastle United signed Michael Owen from Real Madrid. And he sat on the bench majority of the time. He was injured and he was unhappy being there. He was on massive wages and he was spiteful of the fact that he was at Newcastle United and not Real Madrid anymore. And at the very end of the day, Michael Owen at that point was past his best. We sold him on to, I think, Manchester United, or he ended up at Stoke eventually. It just gets to this point where they're not the player that they were in the Champions League, God knows how many years ago. I personally think signing Gareth Bale, even on a loan deal, because let's be perfectly honest, you're paying so much money on his wages, it's like a full transfer fee. It was a silly move. You could have got at least 2 players on permanent basis for the money you're paying for Gareth Bale, and it doesn't seem worth the expense to have him basically just sat there. And it's a player as well that Mourinho doesn't like. For me, it seems like a player that the board bought rather than Mourinho bought. Because if I was Mourinho, I'd be crying out for another centre back. I'd be, begging the board for a centre back or a right back, just to shore up the defence, rather than having, you've got Eric Lamela there.
No, different player. But you look, he actually got a centre back and he got a right back.
Yeah, but you could do it
as well as Bale.
I saw that game today. You could do with a different right back and a different centre back.
Oh yeah. But like I said earlier on, obviously there was COVID issues around Alderweireld and Thingy and Doherty shouldn't even be allowed to put football boots on himself, let alone.
He was all right at Wolves, right?
Yeah, he was great, but now he's playing for the team that his arch rival supports.
True enough. Right, a couple of quick fire rounds for you, gents. So, Harry Kane leaves in summer because he's had enough. Moves on to another club. Your Spurs manager. Who do you sign as a replacement? Lee.
I have to say, I think Harry Kane would do well to go to Man City. If it looks like Man City.
Lee, it's a quick fire round. Who would you sign?
If Gareth Bale's available for another year.
But then he'd start every week.
I don't know. I have no idea. I think that would be Jose's nightmare to deal with, unfortunately. I think you've got to fight. You've got to dig someone out of the. I don't know. Because anybody that's proven is actually going to cost more than Harry Kane. Really, you go abroad. You need 25, 30 goals. It's unless Spurs do amazingly and find somebody, they're onto a complete loser there, because whatever money they get in, they will have to spend that plus a bit more to get somebody as proven, and so unfortunately I don't have to worry about those problems.
That was a very good quick fire answer, Lee. George.
I know exactly who Spurs should sign.
Go on then.
Because I have a case study. You want proven Premier League goals. You want someone who's mobile in the box but also good at dropping deep. Someone exactly like Harry Kane. You sign Callum Wilson. Straight away. He will get you 20 with the service that Spurs can provide. He will get you 20 goals a season easily. You buy Callum Wilson. He costs you about 25.
Gets injured about as often as Kane as well, doesn't he? 10 weeks a season.
Well, yeah, in that case, scenario, play Son up front.
Yeah, fair play. Martin?
First off, Harry Kane's not going anywhere for 3 years, so we can all go on that one. Secondly, you're going to be looking at youth. Well, no, realistically, Levy's not going to sell him for less than 150.
Pay it, so, yeah.
Someone's going to pay it. Kane's still in for 3 years. and he's not the type of person that's just going to go, "Oh, I don't want to play then."
I agree that he may not
contract.
go. But what's your answer?
As a replacement, we've got Troy Parrott, we've got Dane Scarlett. If we could get hold of Vinicius and make that deal permanent, there's potential there with add-ons. That could work. I mean, I like the idea of Callum Wilson, but like you said, he gets injured quite a lot. He's 29. It's not really a replay. You want that. You want to go a bit youthy, don't you? You don't want. Look at that. I mean, all right, let's say we sell Kane for 150 million. We then put that 150 million in and we get Haaland. There you go, job done.
I'm sorry, but Haaland would not go to Spurs. There's the imagination. He wants to play in the Champions League.
I loved what he said about Arsenal, though. It's brilliant. So from
that was funny.
My tuppence worth, I'm Daniel Levy. I'd sign Rafinha from Leeds and bank the 40 million that I'd have left over, or 50 million that I'd have left over. I could see Rafinha being an excellent Spurs player, absolute quality in front of goal. It's got that kind of magic that goes in with the tradition of Spurs strikers. That Brazilian flair. He's good at diving. I know Spurs love that. So. But no, I think Rafinha's quality, and I could really see him doing the job for Spurs. Hopefully on Spurs' behalf, you won't be needing to have those kind of considerations in the summer. So, next quick fire question: prediction for the League Cup final. So, unless you've been on Mars, you'll know that's Man City versus Spurs. So let's have a quick prediction from each of you, starting with you, George.
I know I'm in the chat with two Spurs fans in a minute, but I don't think, honestly, from what I saw today, I don't think Spurs got the mustard. I think Man City are going to do what they always do and steamroll to a League Cup victory. They won it virtually every year.
What's the score there, George? Sorry, I should have been. What's the score?
I'll go with 3-1 to Manchester.
3-1 to City. Yeah. Lee? I'm writing them down. Lee, are you thinking, or did you not hear me?
I had a connection problem for a second now.
All right.
Don't hate me, Martin. But Man City 2, Spurs 0. I think. I think City will win the domestic treble. So not particular. I mean, I'd love Spurs to win, but I think City are the best team by far at the moment. And I think Jose will try and do something defensively, and I don't think he can do that for 90 minutes against Man City. My heart says Spurs, my head says Man City, unfortunately.
Kilby?
I'm only going to say it because that's what I want to happen, not because I necessarily think it's going to happen. But my gut is telling me Spurs
it's exactly
2,
what
City
I
1. I think we'll take it.
Well, it depends. Have you got VAR in this one?
I think. Yeah, no, VAR's in it.
That's what it's there for.
City have got no recognised striker, right? Yeah, they are quality, but we've already beaten them 2-0 this season. So there's no reason we couldn't do it again. I'm going to keep the faith on this one. I've been up and down over the past couple of weeks, well, a couple of months, but I think we can do it. So I'm going to go with the 2-1.
I put 2-1 as well, Martin. And the reason for me is, well, Josie is a big game player, but cup finals are 99% of the time nowhere near as exciting as you think they're going to be. They're cagey affairs because teams are as scared. This includes Man City. Are as scared of losing it. A player doesn't want to be the one that loses the ball, that gives it away, that results in a goal. That means their team don't win a trophy. So people are just more cautious in cup finals than they are. I remember the Champions League final. Everyone's dead excited about these two amazing attacking teams. Going to be a beautiful festival of football between Liverpool and Spurs. And it wasn't, because they were both so scared of losing that it was just an opportunity popped up, and there you go. And for that reason, I think that Spurs have got as much chance as City. City won't go for it in their normal way. Spurs will park the bus. They'll try and hit them on the counter, and why shouldn't they? With the counter-attacking talent they've got, that's where they look their most dangerous, as far as I'm concerned. When you've got Son and Kane and Ndombele, sprinting at you 20 miles an hour, it's a scary proposition. So that's why I think Spurs can do it, and I just like to think that City don't win everything. Don't mind them winning the league. Don't mind them winning the Champions League, but it'd be nice for them not to. Oh, wait a minute. That means Spurs will win a trophy. So I'm going to take that back. No, I think they've got a good chance. All right, so moving on to the next question. So a completely different type of performance from Liverpool yesterday, far more reminiscent of the form of earlier in the season and last season. And I know that one swallow doesn't a summer make, but is Liverpool's bad run over, Martin? Are they down? Are they back on form? Are they going to have a strong run in now?
No. Let's be honest. Let's look at the Arsenal team that they faced. Partey, complete waste of time. They're Arsenal at the moment, and I'm not just saying that because I despise every fibre of them, but they're distinctly bang average. Okay, they beat us a few weeks back. I'll give them that.
They played quite well against you as well.
But we were god awful. You say that. They didn't, because, their first goal was a penalty, which obviously we're all a bit like, but, it went in the back of the net in the end, so fair enough. Other than that, they didn't really. They got down the wings a couple of times, and they did have a threat, but they weren't all that. They're not the Arsenal that they used to be. That you're the winners, the invincible Arsenal.
No, they've conceded 6 goals in 2 games.
To say that Liverpool, Liverpool are not. They're not the team they were. There's obviously some issue in the ranks, and I think Salah's probably a big part of that alongside Mane. And I'm honestly, they've got their defensive injury, and I will say that as an injury, not injuries. But they're not gonna reset until the end of the season. I don't think.
Lee, what do you think?
Well, I actually watched the first half. And I thought it was bloody awful from both teams. Liverpool couldn't get going. Arsenal were very slow. There was a lot of hesitancy at the back. And I sort of compared that to the Man City Leicester bit that I saw. And Liverpool is still a long way off that. It wasn't bad. I thought your Trent Alexander, the cross he put in for the Jota's goal, the headed one.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Trent was good yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, having said that, the Arsenal centre back Gabriel. Just
not so good.
Just absolutely, absolutely awful. And you can't really afford one of your centre backs to have a really bad game. And he did play rubbish. It's a step in the right direction for Liverpool. I
think we've lost you there, Lee. So we'll wait for you to come back on. And it's a funny pose that you're frozen in.
Yeah.
Lee, just try jumping out the room and back in again. George, what do you think? Is the bad run over?
Well. Funnily enough, I was completely agreeing with Lee there. I think that Liverpool were better than they have been in recent times, but Arsenal were by no means a strong opposition for them. I mean, the first goal with that Trent Alexander-Arnold cross, and we can go mad about the cross because it was a brilliant cross, don't get me wrong, but Diogo Jota made Rob Holding look like a centre forward rather than the centre back. I was absolutely all over him. And if you're Arsenal and Rob Holding is your centre back, you've got to be crying out for a transfer in the summer, because honestly, I'm glad Newcastle didn't sign him. Let's just put it right to bed there. But let's not take anything away from Liverpool at the same time. That they had some strong moments in the game and they capitalised on those moments. But there were general periods of play throughout that entire thing where I thought, this isn't really an anything game. There's no urgency. There's nothing about it where it's not end to end. It's not dramatic. It's just that Liverpool had some chances, and when they got those chances, they buried them rather than sky them or spurn the chances. I mean, Bobby Firmino, he had a few chances which I think he should have scored. He didn't, so he's still not performing to the top level. Although, to be fair, he's never been that much of a goal scorer, but he needs Mane and Salah to start banging in goals. And if I'm perfect, I think Diogo Jota is going to be Liverpool's saving grace this season. He could be, the signing of the season if he can drag them into a Europa League spot.
Well, he's been the difference already, hasn't he? And he was the difference yesterday. So came on for Firmino and scored goals. And Liverpool looked a different proposition in the second half. I felt they had they had a tempo that was more in the second half yesterday. The tempo that was more reminiscent of an informed Liverpool, but also individual performances. And the reason I asked the question for the show today, Fabinho back in midfield ran that midfield yesterday, and to keep we could say how rubbish Arsenal are. In Martin Odegaard, they got one of the best loan signings of the season. He's a fantastic footballer. Anonymous yesterday, couldn't get the ball. Whenever he was on it, he was hustled off. And that having Fabinho and Thiago in the middle, they just stopped anything that Arsenal did to get out. Because yes, they've got some rubbish defenders, but look at the attacking talent they had on the field. At one time, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Odegaard, Partey pushing forward. None of them did anything. I think they had 2 shots in the whole game, and it doesn't matter who that's against. That you've nullified an attacking threat there, and you could Liverpool can only play who's in front of them, I guess. But
I would agree with that. I would say that Liverpool were a vast improvement over what we've seen this season, especially like the team that got held to a 0-0 draw at St James's Park. That was a dreadful night for Liverpool, and they sort of carried that on into the new year. And what happened yesterday? It was a decent performance from Liverpool, and I wholeheartedly put my hands up and say they played decently well, and they crushed that Arsenal team. It's sort of every aspect. They were better defensively, better in midfield, and better going forward, and better manager. They're just a better team in every regard, and But it'd be interesting to see what happens when Liverpool come up against a tough test, a team that you would say a 6-pointer kind of game, and see if that Liverpool team pulls it out of the bag like they would have done last season.
Well, interestingly, they've played most of those already, George. So they've got you look at their running versus the other teams in the top 4. Liverpool have probably got the easiest. I mean, City obviously going to win the league. Take City out of the equation, Liverpool got the easiest running by far. I think all their games bar one are bottom half teams, but they've been coming unstuck against lower teams, in 2021. So maybe the test is they've done it against Arsenal, but can they do it on a rainy Tuesday evening in Brighton or wherever?
You said it earlier, didn't you? Ali, you said it earlier, that at this point of the season, those teams in the bottom half of the table are harder to beat than the ones in the top half.
That they are, but I'd also say what you see towards the end of the season is you see a couple of great escapes, don't you? Teams that were definitely getting relegated, just win, and they win games that they shouldn't be winning against top teams. But the big boys tend to all finish strongly in the Premier League. That's City won't drop many points anymore. I'd be surprised if Man United dropped that many. Liverpool will be looking at their run-in, thinking we should only be losing one or two of these games now. And that is generally what you tend to see. One or two teams might drop off a bit, but
I would say that Liverpool now, the Premier League, I don't think is their primary concern anymore. I think they're more focused on the Champions League. I've just had a look at their fixture list, and they've got Aston Villa coming up, and that could be a tough game. They beat them 7-2 last time. But they've got Real Madrid, 2 games. You know, they've got Real Madrid next, Aston Villa, and then Real Madrid again. Who do you think they're going to be training for the most? And it'll be interesting to see how they perform against Real Madrid. I know the Champions League is a different beast, and Liverpool they always play a bit different than they do in the Premier League than they do from Europe. But seeing how they do against Real Madrid will be a serious benchmark.
There's a genuine feeling amongst the Liverpool fan base they could win the Champions League this year.
I definitely think so. I think you look at they're in the easier side of the draw, right? So it's going to be them, Real Madrid, Chelsea, or Porto in the final. And they've been there, they've done it. All right, this season's not been great. I personally think it was like a marathon. They hit the wall. Some of those go, all right, okay. They lost to City. Anybody can lose to City. Having said that, they played awful in that game and probably deserved to lose. But I think now with the knockout side of stuff in the Champions League, I mean the thing is, you say it's Bayern Munich, PSG, and then everybody else. Well, Bayern Munich are playing PSG, so you're getting the big teams knocking each other out.
Yeah, and then the winners of that could play City. So, yeah, City could knock either of those two out.
Yeah. So, I'd say Liverpool for the Champions League is a fair punt. I mean, let's be honest, that's what Liverpool used to do in the 70s and the 80s, didn't they? The few seasons when they didn't win the old First Division, last game of the season, they'd win the European Cup. Used to drive people mad.
2005, they weren't, and last time they won it, they weren't league champions, were they?
Yeah.
Oh,
and I've just checked the run of fixtures, and the toughest game that Liverpool have got in the Premier League is Manchester United on the 1st of May. And I would argue that Manchester United team, which is struggling against Brighton, I would argue that's potentially the worst team to ever finish second in the history of the Premier League. So I don't think Liverpool have got a particularly tough run ahead of them.
Did you just see the goal, Martin?
No, I'm not watching it. It was more Ulfin, George's comment. Worst team to ever finish second.
Can you think
Ralph would be doing his nuts.
And don't say Newcastle United when we ran up to Manchester United.
Do what, mate? Sorry.
Can you think of a team that finished second in the Premier League that's worse than this Manchester United team?
Yeah, Spurs when Leicester won it.
Martin, I hate to break it to you, but you didn't finish second that season. You finished third. You choked right at the end, and Arsenal beat you to it, didn't they?
No, that's my point. That was my point. We finished third in the 2 race.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a disaster that was right at the end. All right. So we've only got a few minutes left. So I'm going to jump down to what was point 11. So Mikhail, because we've been talking about Arsenal. So is Arteta on borrowed time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just dive in, lads.
Sorry.
You've talking to two Spurs fans and someone who isn't a fan of Mikel Arteta. Like, honestly, this is going to be a bloodbath. But like, Arteta is, in my opinion, not ready for the Premier League. Stick him in the league for a year, and he'll be all right. Maybe he's managing like Nice or something. He could do a job there. But honestly, sticking him in the Premier League, in the deep end, first managerial job he's ever got, and it's one of like the most hopeless Arsenal teams I've ever seen. So no, I don't think he's long for the Premier League much longer.
What's he done to Aubameyang? And I don't just mean his hair. I mean, how can you take a guy that's one of the best, strikers in modern football and turn him into a winger that doesn't contribute to a game of football anymore in under a season? It's remarkable, really, isn't it?
No. But do you know what it is? Do I really know what it
Yeah,
is?
go on.
He's just never really been that good. He was good in Germany when he was at Dortmund. But other than that, when has he ever... All right, so he shared the golden boot with Salah 1 year. Who was there, man? Who was Arsenal's manager at that point? Was it... I don't care. I don't know why I'm saying it.
How many goals did he score when he shared the golden boot then?
27, 26, 27.
I mean, you're saying what's he ever done? He scored 27 goals in a season in the Premier League. I mean,
One season.
It's
One season
as well. It's sod's law that because both Lacazette and Aubameyang were both on. You remember when Newcastle were going through that period where they just went to the League One and just signed all the best players that weren't really cut for the mustard. So when Aubameyang was at Saint Etienne and Lacazette was at Olympique Lyon, we were looking at both of them, and they could have both been playing up front for Newcastle United in 2014. But we decided to go for Emmanuel Riviere and Yoann Gouffran instead.
Who? What?
Gouffran was quality.
Gouffran was quality, but we played him on the wing.
Gouffran was quality.
We played him on the wing. He's a striker. We played him on the wing, and it's just Loic Remy as well. And then he was a complete mercenary and went to Chelsea. Like
it's
them
funny
above
because
before him.
All the players at West Ham signed as well and didn't get Lacazette.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
3 years in a row.
Newcastle were looking keenly at Sebastian Haller as well, and we dodged a bullet there. So thanks for taking that one for us,
mate.
Here's one for George.
In hindsight, I would have driven him over.
Here's one for you, George. Right, Steve Bruce gets the sack. Arteta gets the job. What would be your thoughts?
I'd say, wow, I can't wait to be playing in League One. It's going to be so much fun. Going to Accrington Stanley, it'd be fantastic. Playing Colchester United.
Hey, you leave the beloved Hughes alone, mate.
Donny Rovers, that's who we'll be playing.
Managed to get them in though. So Lee, what do you think? Is Arteta on borrowed time, or because you're managers being given a good fair whack at a job? So he made some big signings in the summer. Brought Partey in, who was going to be the great saviour. Very different views. I mean, I hear a lot of pundits say that he's a brilliant player, but I'm not seeing it myself. Odegaard, fantastic loan signing. Team's taking a while to gel. He's playing the kids when the grown-ups aren't playing so well. So yeah, you could say there's a positive there. What's your view, Lee? Does he need more time?
Well, he won the FA Cup, so he's won silverware, which was pretty good. He sorted out the Ozil situation. I mean, yeah, I'd give him more time. I mean, they're in no risk of going down.
We all thought they were though at one point, didn't we? I was genuinely thinking they're going to be a relegation battle.
I think that
bottom half, maybe.
The crux of it is that when he brings the younger guys in, it's a different team. Yeah, there's still a lot of rot there. And there's been various managers that have come in where the older pros aren't doing the stuff, and you think, well, why aren't you slagging him off? But they have to keep them happy till they can offload them, and I think that is what he's doing. Pep's probably said to him, look, you're in a bit of a shitty position here. Keep these boys on touch. Come the end of season, get them all out. Get a couple of good pros in, and then you can bring the kids in as well. Seems to be when they bring the kids in, there's a bit of fight, a bit of momentum. I didn't see that very much yesterday.
No. Well, they didn't play the kids yesterday, did they? And
they've got a lot of players, Arsenal, who are on like fat contracts for a long time. They're not going to be like ready for like the contracts aren't going to expire until like 2023. And we're talking like Granit Xhaka here, and he's like, what? Why does he have to turn up every week? when he's probably going to retire in the next 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's on a fat contract at Arsenal. He's not going anywhere. So and if he does go anywhere, he gets a slice of the transfer fee. So or a signing on bonus. So Arsenal are completely screwed with their transfers. They've got a lot of dead wood there that's still in the first team. There are a lot of teams out there that have got dead wood. Newcastle United has got dead wood. We've got like Christian Atsu. No, he hasn't played in like 2 years. Complete Henri Saivet never played in the first team, I don't think. Bar like one appearance. So we're talking people who've got like complete deadwood, but they don't get in the first team. The deadwood at Arsenal gets in the first team, and that's the serious problem. They signed Willian on a free transfer, and honestly, I think Chelsea got the better end of the business there. It was a free transfer, so I mean that says all really. He's crap, honestly.
This is the direction Arsenal are going in, though, isn't it? They've not made very good business decisions. Like the whole thing with Aubameyang taking, what was it, like 4 months to sign a contract?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Arsenal haven't made a good transfer
back.
since they moved into the Emirates. I mean, like they signed Ozil for 40 million, but he turned out to be a bit of a lame duck in the end. After admittedly a few good years of quality service. Do you remember they signed like Lichtsteiner, who's like 35-year-old Swiss right back from Juventus? I'm like, why are you signing him? He's got nothing to offer to that Arsenal team except to hamper the career of Hector Bellerin. But they signed him anyway, and he was probably on over 100k a week. It's stupid. Whoever's in charge of transfers at Arsenal needs to get sacked immediately.
But then,
Hire me instead.
isn't there an element of damned if you do, damned if you don't? Because clubs get criticism if the backup for the first choice, say right back, comes from the youth team. So why haven't we're a big club? Why haven't we got two pros in that position? But then when they sign a pro who's all right age and you're going to pay a bit of money for him because he's a seasoned international, the view can still be, well, why are we wasting the money on this bloke? Yeah, we should have a kid in that position. I do feel there is an element of whatever clubs do with when it's not the first choice. What do you do? Do you go for quality and experience, or do you just have a kid in there? I support a team that a lot of our backups are kids, but you can be exposed. We got handed a result to us by United in the cup where we our striker got injured. We brought a kid on, an under 23, and he was so out of his depth. He then got subbed 20 minutes later. But so the West Ham fans are like saying, well, we should have another player. We should have another pro that we can bring on there.
I would argue that Arsenal's problem isn't so much who they've got backing up the first team; it's the first team itself. So that they need a proper world-class centre back. They need a general in midfield. They need a leader. They need a lot of the spine of that Arsenal team. When we're talking key centre back, goalkeeper, key in midfield, and a proper good world-class striker, Harry Kane level striker. They need that whole thing, and they just don't have the money to pay for anything like that. So that it's difficult to say where Arsenal are going to go. Are they going to go towards youth? Which arguably I probably think they should do. They've got quite good young, Saka, Smith Rowe, decent players. They should really be giving them a chance. But I know, we've seen Arsenal in the past, and we know what they're going to do. They're going to go towards the bringing the players in kind of option, and they're going to spend poorly, and they're going to bring some crap striker in from Russia or something, next Andre Arshavin or something like that. And he's just going to be a complete fuck. Then Nicholas Bentner. Just one word, Bentner, and that sums up the entire Arsenal's
Yeah, it's a bit of. There's quite harsh examples though, George, because for every Bentner there's an Henri, Petit, Vieira,
that was so long ago.
Overmars, Arshavin. We're talking great players.
We're talking Highbury kind of players. They haven't had any players like that since then. Not since they moved into the Emirates.
Well, we're talking Wenger players, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, we're in
the post-Wenger era, and no one seems to be able to get that right.
I don't think since Tony Adams, I don't think Arsenal have had a proper world-class centre back.
Or a decent captain. Yeah, you watch your mouth.
Sol Campbell bought him.
Just
top
mate,
notch.
we had him in Newcastle. He was not world class.
Well, maybe by the time he got to Newcastle, he wasn't. Was he playing with Michael Owen,
He
perchance?
was like 38, I think, or something.
You know what, George, you make a good point there. You said about what sort of players they need, leaders. And for me, that's what I keep hearing from and seeing myself. When did they last have a leader? That guy that says, come on, we're going to get the ball and we're going to do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no grit in that Arsenal team, and that Arsenal team, I would say, is a team that cares more what they look like on Instagram and Twitter than they do about what they look like on the pitch.
The nearest they've got to a leader.
Let me get a selfie with my gold Lamborghini, because that's all they're really crap about. And then they go out on the pitch to fight like crap.
The nearest they've got to a leader is Xhaka, really, isn't it? And the problem with him is he's not quality enough for a top 4 Premier League team, is he? He's a decent player. He gets a lot of stick. He's a decent player, but is he top 4? Holding midfielder, captain quality? Probably not. He is an 8th or 9th sort of captain, isn't he? If it was at my team, if it was at your team, George, we'd love him. We think he was brilliant. But
yeah, I mean, I would like him, but he'd sort of be like Mitrovic was for Newcastle when we had him. Like he battles, he tries really hard, he fights for every ball. He's tenacious, perfect word. But then he gets sent off, and you think, what a word I'm not willing to say. I don't know if I can say on the podcast.
No, don't say it.
What an idiot!
We're a family-friendly channel.
Let's also remember that Granit Xhaka was the same Granit Xhaka that stuck his fingers up to the Arsenal fans and told them to go forth and multiply. Yeah. So,
hotheads. Always welcome at West Ham, hotheads.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I love seeing Arsenal fail. So,
well, of course you do. I'd expect nothing less. Gents, thank you all very much for your time tonight. It's been a really good show. So, thanks for coming on. We'll be back next week. 8 o'clock on all the usual social media channels. So please like and share the show. Be much appreciated. Thanks very much. We have been Football Fever. And good night and happy Easter.